medical reasons for criminalizing marijuana. Marijuana was criminalized because it was associated with dangerous classes, poor people. Marijuana was criminalized because it was associated with poor people, dangerous classes. First criminalization of marijuana was in the Southwest. It was in New Mexico, later Utah, and so on, and it was specifically targeted against Mexicans. Marijuana didn't get criminalized in the United States until shortly after Prohibition ended. After Prohibition ended, we had this huge Bureau of Narcotics, and they had to do something. So they discovered marijuana is going to do all kinds of horrible things to you. The Senate testimony about this is mind-boggling. They did have a representative of the American Medical Association who said, we don't have any medical evidence about this. He was shut up, denounced, got rid of him right away. Then they found somebody else, a pharmacologist, a guy teaching at Temple University, who was doing experiments with marijuana in dogs. They brought this guy in. He testified that when he gave marijuana to dogs, they went insane. Marijuana to dogs, they went insane. These are all kind of things. Some senator asked him, the guy, well, have you ever tried marijuana on humans? So he said, yeah, I tried it on myself. And he said, well, what happened? He said, I turned into a vulture. I started flying around the room. Oh my God, this stuff is terrible. It makes people insane. And marijuana, it was declared by Congress that marijuana makes people insane. But then something happened. It turned out that lawyers, defense lawyers, got the idea and used this for an insanity defense. So if a guy was found, who killed 3 cops, his lawyer would say, well, he had marijuana before, so he was insane, so he can't do anything. And people were getting off on charges, like cop killing, for example, on the claim that they had marijuana. So all of a sudden it was discovered that marijuana doesn't make you insane. Congress decided, sorry, it doesn't make you insane because we want to wipe that out. The next idea was marijuana is an entry drug. It's a drug you take and then you go on to something else. Well, there was never any evidence for that. But that was decided. And then in the early 50s, something else happened. Marijuana is being brought in here by red Chinese to poison the American population and destroy us. So therefore, we got to stop marijuana. And it kind of goes on like this. Actually, the peak of marijuana use was, as I said, in the 70s. But that was rich kids, so you don't throw them in jail. And then it got seriously criminalized. You really throw people in jail for it when it was poor people. There has never been a medical reason for criminalizing marijuana. Marijuana was criminalized because it was associated with poor people. Dangerous classes.
Dr. Ram Thoreau, and this is Physician for the People. We stand right now at a critical moment in history. My fellow Americans and citizens of the world, right now we are in a time loop never before understood. Human beings now face perhaps the greatest challenge of their survival that we've ever known. An orange Oompa Loompa named Trump has seized power in the nation's capital. And all hell is breaking out all over the planet. Leadership has faltered. And the prohibition of the plant keeps the people in ignorance. Right now, cannabis community, the people who threw off prohibition in a police state, who took under their healing, when the police said no, this community knows how to take its power back. And I look to you, cannabis community. How now, when all seems lost, when there are shootings in schools, when the children must lead, when in Florida we see coming out of the school system in this country, in the country of the United States, we see in fact...
And these children that you spit on!
What the hell is that?
As they try to change their world!
Jay!
Are immune to your constipations! I mean,
Oh my God, it's begun again. Ladies and gentlemen, I don't know if you know this, but there have been experiments going on in Switzerland to open up a portal between this dimension and the next. And that when we dedicate our show to the endocannabinoid system, to healing, there are these spirits that do migrate in.
I'm telling you, the problem with this gun situation is that there are too many whores involved.
Good Lord.
The
Frank-
politicians whore themselves in the NRA. The NRA whores itself to the gun makers. All this talk from the NRA and the politicians about taking away your Second Amendment rights and your freedoms, it's all bullshit.
Oh my goodness. Cannabis community, it's clear that
Welcome to America.
welcome to America.
Welcome to America.
Right.
They're just a bunch of whores who do and say anything for money, greedy bastards.
The
And
cancer.
the kids at these schools keep on dropping like flies every time there's another shooting. The whores, they really don't care, give a damn about the people. They just want the money. And these children that you spit on as they try to change their worlds are immune to your consultations. They're quite aware what they're going through.
Listen, when the wisdom comes through from the other side, we know that we're deep in the hole, right? What we understand now is, in fact, for every demon that the CERN portal pops through, that there's an angel on the other side waiting to speak. And cannabis community, when you naturally take on the euphoria, you merge practically with your higher self. And what do you see when you're in your power? What angels do you know when you're in your power? Cannabis community, I need you to slay the demons by taking on your euphoria today. Or else you don't want to know how Trump will like to end life as we know it.
Those scientists fucking with that CERN machine, that atom smasher, the particle picker-up, or whatever you want to call it
Right.
in Europe. They're trying to find ways of going into other dimensions, parallel universes, alternative reality.
And the purpose of this is what, Frankie? What do we know? Why are they doing this to us? Why are they doing this to the good people?
And they want to go after resources.
Who's they?
But they're going to find out that they go into some of these dimensions, there's going to be some evil shit that's going to come out of them.
Right. And that's why we know the cannabis has been prohibited. The cannabis is the only way to keep these forces at bay. Cannabis community, if you take on your healing now, if you take on the fire genetics that will get you to euphoria, take care of your endocannabinoid system, you may escape certain damnation.
If you think the mob's bad, the evil that's coming out of these dimensions is going to make the mob look like Cub Scouts.
This is worse than we thought. This is worse than we thought. Without the medicine for the people, humanity may not survive. And this is where we are. This is a desperate time. It's not entertainment. I'm not saying this because I believe it's funny or entertaining. I believe absolutely that we are in a loop of no return.
This talk that one of the scientists a couple of years ago was swallowed up by a mini black hole.
Yes.
And they're trying to get him back. But what happens if he comes back and he's gone over to the evil aliens?
Cannabis community, only cannabis can make the difference now. I need words of wisdom because when I hear like this, the news, the work that's ahead of us, it's daunting. I don't know if I'm able to keep up with it.
There's another story.
I need more. I need
There's another
something.
story about giant insects coming out another one of these mini black holes. They're hungry for human flesh.
This is what's going to happen.
What happens if one of these insects is hungry for Italian food? I don't want to become its next meal.
High fat.
And Doc, if they want Greek food, they're going to come after you.
Holy shit.
And
They're
how
coming
about
after
if
my
they want soul
baklava.
food?
Wait,
How about
wait,
if they want soul food?
I got the idea. If you have enough cannabis in your system when the aliens eat you, maybe it will go into them.
They're going to eat us like slices of pizza. I'm telling you, they're opening up the gates of hell with that damn CERN thing. Our lives won't be worth a nickel after that.
This is what brings us to the point of no return, cannabis community. Only now, if you can, the cannabis that you have, take it on and hold this moment with me now. All together, we can create a force of goodness that will make this dimension the dimension it's meant to be. Light and nothing but light. Hold this moment, cannabis community. These shootings cannot breed fear in children of light. No, we can overcome it now. Cannabis community, I need euphoria. And this is going to be the legacy that we leave behind, cannabis. Jay, take us to Irv Rosenfeld. Frankie, you're a menace and a triple agent.
Hey,
If you got anything to say,
And our favorite.
if you got,
Go ahead.
say it now before I have to take
Go
you
ahead.
out. Because
Some people smoke pot to feel divine. Sometimes it happens if you had too much wine. But maybe the world's problems would be less. A puff or a sip help us get us out of this mess.
There it is.
Wow.
I used to have a button man named Willie Cheech. He was a man of few words. He didn't preach. When I gave him the word, he went into action. Just did what he had to do without a reaction. We need more like Cheech, I have to admit, because the powers that be are too full of shit.
Oh, Willie Cheech. What happened to Willie
Better
Cheech?
and better.
Better and better.
Better and better.
Trump and his gang are like the Rosado brothers. He'd take everything you got if he had his druthers. But soon he will bite off more than he can chew. And he'll go down the shithole. Him and his crew.
Oh, my
There
God.
he is.
Frankie, when the demons of hell take you back to where you belong, make sure you cover yourself in holy water and cannabis. And Jay, oh my God. Oh,
There
we
he
got
goes.
him.
There he goes.
It was sad.
I hope he comes back.
Yeah. All right. So then we're going to go to the Irv Rosenfeld, the new video.
The disorders that I suffer from are multiple congenital cartilaginous exostosis and ovarian to the syndrome pseudo-hypoparathyroidism. In lay terms, what it means is bone tumors that grow outwardly from the long bones, such as this, grow outwardly into the muscles and the veins, stretching the muscles and the veins, making it very painful. And more important, any kind of movement can tear the muscle or tear the vein, and I could hemorrhage, and a clot could break off, go to my heart, my brain, my lungs, I'm dead. I usually try to get in, if I can, 10 to 12 marijuana cigarettes per day. What the cannabis definitely does is relax the muscles when we have these tumors. Thereby, I can move and not have to worry about tearing anything. I'm ready to go to work and I try to make some money for myself and my clients. More important, my clients. When people see me taking my medicine, they don't understand that it's medicine, and they think all I'm trying to do is get high, and that I've got some kind of balls to be able to do it in public. Of course, I try to explain to them right away that it's medical use and provided by the federal government. And I'm sure most people just kind of laugh and go, yeah, right. I became the second person in the United States to receive medical cannabis from the federal government. Robert Randall was the first patient.
We welcome to Larry King Live, Bob Randall, the first American ever to gain legal access to marijuana because of his glaucoma condition. Why are you allowed to use these, Robert? I have a disease called glaucoma, and marijuana at this point is the only drug that will help prolong my sight. If it's longer now legally, then sure. Okay, yes. This is a first. I want you to know, Larry.
I spent 27 years with Bob Randall, and 25 of those years he was using 10 marijuana cigarettes a day, federally supplied. And I can assure you he was not a stoner. He had a terrific memory. He was extremely articulate. He was highly motivated when it came to...
Right on. Now, these federal patients demonstrate that the federal government is known for decades that cannabis is, in fact, useful medicine. Especially Irv Rosenfeld. I want to talk about his case because it really talks about, the difference that the endocannabinoid system, when it's healthy, can make. This guy, if you saw him, right, he's telling us about while he's driving the car. He's saying he's got a muscle tendon disease, right? What that is like a elephant man disease. His bones grow and change shape at night. So what he's trying to show us is when he's turning the wheel, right? If he didn't have cannabis, his ligaments would snap, literally, right? Now, one of the things I want to show y'all, that elasticity that the cannabis will give someone with a disease, right, is the elasticity that we all benefit from, because whenever you're under stress, right, what does stress do? You can see it.
Tighten up.
Tighten up.
You tighten up.
So what do people say when they want to relax? They got to loosen up.
Loosen up.
Cannabis is literally doing that, right? Now, on the next slide, you can see on these slides what's going on. There's a presynaptic and a postsynaptic junction, right? The science of this is, right, where is the endocannabinoid system? Now, where is it? Right? Is it in your bones? Right? Is it in your brain? Literally, it's in between the junctions of nerves. And it's in between the junctions of nerves, and that's why they keep on showing us these pre and these posts, right? What they're trying to tell us is that between the pre and the post, when like you stub your toe and that toe is firing off and it's hurting, it's going wham, 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 right? The ability of the postsynaptic junction to say, I got you. Yeah, it's okay, I got you. You're good, right? This is what we experience as euphoria. When that tooth can, right? Yeah, exactly, it goes away, right? Wham, 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 all of a sudden, oh, I got you, I heard you. In fact, the endocannabinoid system talks to, right, the postsynaptic junction. It goes, all right, let's see a picture of it. You actually have fizz, right? Notice the fizz that's going back here. Oh, honey, I pressed the wrong button. Oh, I pressed the wrong button again. Oh, this is the one. Right, notice how the fizz, right here. When the exciting synapse comes in with the signal, zap, right? The fizz comes off. I heard you loud and clear, dude. And here's the endocannabinoid system right here, guys, inside the nerve. It's like a little effervescence that's communicating from the postsynaptics and saying, okay, guys, stop firing. Endocannabinoids are saying, relax.
So it takes you into the parasympathetic nervous system. Does it?
Indirectly, yes, because it stops the firing of the sympathetic nerves, right? And then the parasympathetic automatically take over, right? What I really do think this is very interesting from the bodyworker point of view is the difference between, you notice this guy, Irv Rosenfeld, his connective tissue is being stretched. By having cannabis, the nerves can make that junction jump easier, right? It's the space in between the nerves that the endocannabinoid system empowers. And this is where disease starts to happen, y'all. Disease happens here when these nerves can't talk. Now, if we can understand what jams up the endocannabinoid system, you're going to understand what causes disease. And that's it, right? Flexibility is a sign of health, right?
It is.
It is, right?
We talk about hydrating our body. You hydrate your body through movement.
Right.
You can drink a lot of water and you feel still old. You still feel unhealthy. You have to move. Until
that water gets put into the actual fascia to get it to circulate, and you get that neuroplasticity again, guys.
If you yawn, that really does restart your system.
Right.
Just a simple yawn.
Right. So what we want to go through now, as we describe where the endocannabinoid system is, we want to describe its four functional pieces, right? The endocannabinoid system is like a car. It's a system, right? You got an engine, you got the fuel, and then you got the message, like the brake or the accelerator, right? The engine is your physical self. These are the nerves, the physical nerves. Eating right for the physical nerves, right? It's a good diet. You have to eat, though, fat to support the nerves because the actual endocannabinoids are made of the very fatty tissues, right? So the endocannabinoids themselves are made out of fat. The nerves are made out of fat. If you expect to use your endocannabinoid system every day, I recommend your fat source be up to 40 to 50% of your total calories. And I'm talking good fat, not fried food fat. I'm talking about the fat that you can make nerves and brain cells out of, the kind of fat you'd give little kids.
Almonds.
Right? Almonds, nuts, peanut butter, cashews.
Healthy fish.
Essential fatty acids in the form of hemp seed oil. Actually taking oil supplements.
What about coconut oil?
Coconut oil, medium chain fatty acids are incredibly good in the system, right? Because if you notice, if you take edibles that actually have medium chain coconut oils, they work better. They work better for people. Right? So in other words, yes, we think that actually taking on a broad range of fats helps create the engine, a sound engine for the endocannabinoid system. Now, you can have a great engine, but still no fuel. Now, this is where you talk about eating terpenes, right?
Found in plants.
Found in plants, lemongrass, mangoes, right? These are the precursor to neurotransmitters. Just like I would eat turkey, get sleepy because there's a lot of tryptophan, right? When you eat a food that has a lot of precursors to brain chemistry, that brain chemistry is empowered. Now, guess what, cannabis community? When you're taking on cannabis, you're using your brain chemistry. You're using it a lot, right? And a lot of times when people then come back and they say, oh, I have tolerance, that's because the system's been fatigued and we've eaten up all the nutrition that goes into, right, lifting those neurotransmitters. You already used them up this morning. Now, eating so those neurotransmitters come back, that's why I brought my GABA, y'all. You want to eat your GABA? Because GABA is actually what's going back and forth. Endocannabinoid system's in here. The signal for the endocannabinoid system is actually the GABA. Right? That's what's silly. Right? You eat the signal, the switch is made out of fat. Thank you. But the signal's made out of fat, but the switch is made out of B vitamins. Right? So like that. You get the B vitamins, that's the fuel. Now, what's going to be your signal? How are you going to signal it? Now, this is where cannabis should be. Cannabis, you only want your cannabis to be a signal, not to do too much work at all. Remember the first time you puffed? All you needed was just a breath of it, right?
A bad inhale worked.
Right, exactly. Yeah. Bad inhale, contact highs, right? Because cannabis was strictly a signal. It was just like a foot on the accelerator. Boom. Right? But now people also burnt out. They have no neurotransmitters. They got to push so hard on the accelerator to actually get the system to go. Right? So for the cannabis community to overcome your cannabis tolerance, right? This is about going through the system and picking out how you can empower each part. Now, because we have 3 moving parts, we do have to talk about the interference. That's really the 4th part. Interference to the endocannabinoid system, right? And where's your number one? It's the hardest one to explain to people. Your number one interference is sugar. When you're running on fight or flight, when you are running, the actual literal definition of an endocannabinoid, it's an eicosanoid. It's a 20-chain fatty acid.
If you want to say, no, we are saying, we're absolutely saying that cannabis is a plant.
Right.
It's all natural. Why
Right.
wouldn't you feed your body all natural? If you're taking the time to actually smoke, eat, ingest, feel something that's sacred to some people,
Right.
cannabis, then why wouldn't you have a diet that matches that?
Well, look at that's that. Maybe not. Why not? Right. What's interesting, right, is that because there is a real reason, but it doesn't follow the rationale that we have with our drug culture. Right. I'm going to answer your question, but in a long way. Can I have some of that orange, by the way?
I'm getting there.
Well, come on. Well, don't make me wait for it. Listen, the thing is that like if you take certain drugs have a target impact. Like if I take aspirin, you know what it's going to do. It's targeted.
It's targeted.
Right. Cannabis is not targeted. It's like NyQuil. If you take NyQuil, you'll get over your cold, but not because there's any antibacterial and antiviral in the NyQuil. You go to sleep so soundly that you reboot.
The last time I had a cold or flu was 31 years ago because at the first sign, I do something to make me sleep.
Make you sleep.
I do sleep.
Right.
Sleep is my best drug.
Right. And that's what cannabis does for the human being, for the healing process. It reboots us to the original operating system, y'all. And that's different than a drug coming in and taking over, which is okay if you're out of control. God forbid you have high blood pressure, you're going to have a stroke. You do want a drug in an abnormal situation, help you feel normal. But in a complex system, have you ever called Verizon and actually asked, tell them my internet doesn't work? What do they tell you?
Check. Reset your cable box.
Right, you turn it on and off. Right?
Turn it on and
Turn it on and off.
Reset.
That's what cannabis is, y'all. Cannabis medicine allows the human being to recover from stress that is so overwhelming that in fact they're stuck. And now with cannabis in their lives, the endocannabinoid system can reboot. Now, can you imagine modern life without the ability to relax?
I see it all the time.
Right.
We live in D.C.
We live in D.C. We live in the big city.
We live in Maryland, but we're in D.C. enough that we see it all the time.
Right. The inability to relax is the core of the modern dysfunction. Right? And this is what we're here for. If we can empower the cannabis community, do you understand? The world is ours. The weed shall inherit the earth.
The weed
shall inherit the earth, y'all. That's what that really means. Now, the interference with the endocannabinoid system is like if you burn sugar, you can see it burns black. If you eat too much sugar, yeah, right. If you did this in science class?
No, Hawaii would burn the fields to get government money. So the island would ash black.
Yeah. If you ever burn sugar, you'll see that ash is black. Now, if you burn sugar really hot, this ash ends up in your metabolism. And this is the interference, literally, that happens to the endocannabinoid system. So often people say that they even out their cannabis with sugar, with caffeine. And what's going on is that they're muting the effect over a long time.
You think they're craving or you think it's programming? Because I gave that a lot of thought today on the way here. Could it be programming that we match the munchies with Doritos?
Yeah, I agree.
By brand name,
Yeah,
Doritos.
by brand name, yeah.
I never heard anyone get high and say I want corn chips. It's Doritos.
Yeah. No, I agree with you. By
Is
programming.
it programming?
Yeah. Yeah, that's how deep. There's nothing that we know of in mass culture that isn't already programmed or mindfuck. Right? And the endocannabinoid system, y'all, is the filter on the bullshit. Right? They want to program, the elite, the government, the corporations, they all want to program our choices. But when you take on cannabis, you don't fall for the bullshit. And cannabis community, the world needs your bullshit filters, y'all. Jay, take us to an IG, would you? I'm going to take us out. We're going to take a break. Come on down. Cannabis community, give us 2 and 2. Back in a minute.
Cannabis community, how are you going to make your day complete? Remember, it's more than wake and bake. It's about letting the plant within, take over for today for a little bit. When we clear the mind, when we actually let it rest in meditation and take on the silence, what becomes obvious is the endocannabinoid system is rebooting, right? And that really does complete the endocannabinoid reset from the plant. When we take on cannabis, when we take on cannabis use, what is it doing? It is rebooting us. Now, for many who have been overwhelmed by stress in their lives, almost everybody in the modern lifestyle, this means that they are coming in unable to reboot because of the stress. Cannabis becomes an essential nutrient, and I'm enjoining you. Take the cannabis seriously. Cannabis community, physician for the people, doing an inventory of your euphoria. What is it made of? The endocannabinoid system. It's in fact a lipid chain, a chain of fats, essential fatty acids. Not quite the long, hard fats that you might store in your belly, but more like the pre-digested fats that you might find in beans and fish oil. Right? Essential fatty acids. Right? Your body eats them, body makes them. Chews them up. Right? The endocannabinoid system, when it comes to tone, that's euphoria. Right? The lifted feeling. What is it made of? It's physical. Also emotional. Right? Where you have been emotionally counts. Right? It leaves a trail. The emotional body. Now look at the mental body. What you're thinking. It leaves a record. It leaves ion channels. It counts. Now the spiritual body also, made out of purpose, your intention. This is you on Cannabis community, physician for the people, doing an inventory of your euphoria. What is it made of? The endocannabinoid system. It's in fact a lipid chain, a chain of fats, essential fatty acids. Not quite the long, hard fats that you might store in your belly, but more like the pre-digested fats that you might find in beans and fish oil. Right? Essential fatty acids. Right? Your body eats them, body makes them. Chews them up. Right? The endocannabinoid system, when it comes to tone, that's euphoria. Right? The lifted feeling. What is it made of? It's physical. Also emotional. Right? Where you have been emotionally counts. Right? It leaves a trail. The emotional body. Now look at the mental body. What you're thinking. It leaves a record. It leaves ion channels. It counts. Now the spiritual body also, made out of purpose, your intention. This is you on Cannabis community, physician for the people, doing an inventory of your euphoria. What is it made of? Cannabis community, physician for the people. 2018 is going to be the year of cannabis. It already is. You look at the authorities. First of all, they're bankrupt. Jeff Sessions may want to make cannabis the new apartheid, but really there's not enough money left in Trump's America to pay for it. The United States is bankrupt, right? Morally bankrupt, and in fact financially bankrupt. And they're looking to cannabis as the new tax and regulation scheme that's going to save the man from the way that they like to spend money. The way that we spend our cannabis dollars is going to actually define the cannabis community. We have a choice. Either we're going to be cannabis chumps and play into the stereotypes that the elite and the prohibitionists have mapped out for us for generations. In other words, cannabis community likes Cheetos. The cannabis community will have to define itself by deciding it is the smart, the wise, and in fact, the euphoric.
Cannabis community, my fellow Americans and citizens of the world, not only do we have a treat for you, we have it here live. Simba, from New Zealand's in the audience.
What's good?
Special co-host Corey McLeaves Mark. We're here. We're going to talk about DC, what makes us unique, and share it with the world. I want to get to know my friend though, Mr. Simba. Listen, I am fascinated by the stuff I've read and seen already about you.
Okay.
Tell me how does a smart guy like you get involved with cannabis? How'd you get started?
How did I get started in cannabis?
Yeah.
I started smoking. I was involved in the music community. I
Yeah.
was doing a lot of music stuff. And after a while, I just got known as that dude who was in the music scene who smoked cannabis. Most of my work before this was managing a lot of artists and promoting their projects. So I kind of got sick of that and wanted to do something for me.
Yeah.
I thought, what could I do? Brand myself with cannabis. Let's do it. Obviously, with in my country, we need people like me who are pushing for reform, and there wasn't anyone, in my opinion, doing it right. So.
Look, you're going around the world, and for a young dude, you're already a lawyer. So if I'm making this right,
Yeah.
you've got a mission. You're not just here, see what's going on. You are. You got a lot on the ball, my friend. Tell us.
Yeah, so I went to law school
Yeah.
back in New Zealand. Yeah, it was great. I loved it. And then when I got my internship, I really didn't enjoy it. So I kind of watched like TV and Boston League and all these type of things, and thought it was going to be like that. Got to it and was just like, nah, that's not me. So I kind of like had to turn my back on my fucking law career.
Yeah.
And then now cannabis.
Right, but how perfect dovetail your fascination with activism.
Yeah.
Right. This is where your law degree really makes sense to me. Right.
Well, it's. Sorry. Exactly. And I think that's something that makes me different from a lot of the people in my country is the fact that I do have that legal background.
Yeah.
And I understand certain things about like the legal system and how bills are written and all those type of things. So, yeah, it makes me an asset to our cause.
It does.
Yeah.
Right. For real, look at. So I'm fascinated by the fact that we're all Anglophones here. But what do you call weed in like so up here we'll call it I was thinking when I was a kid we called it pot.
Yeah.
Right?
Pot.
Weed, pot. Yeah, what do y'all call it in New Zealand?
Weed is probably the most common one. Weed, cannabis. It all depends on really where you are.
Yeah.
So
Watching
different
something, it's always
places.
cannabis. Like you always hear him say cannabis.
Cannabis, weed, dope is used a lot. But it's weird. You go around places in New Zealand and it's called blows or grass or pot or
It's
just
different
herb. I guess it all depends who you're talking to, what they kind of grew up calling it, and
Right.
green.
I've read that actually cannabis in New Zealand,
Yeah.
the New Zealanders are the #1 per capita consumers of cannabis in the world. Do you feel that's true? Being around the world now.
Yeah, so from what I've seen, it's slightly different from where I come from though, because up until recently it's been super duper legal. We now have a very little medical program.
Interesting.
It's quite limited, and I mean our government is currently looking at how they can expand that. But yeah, I guess
So you're one of a few there then. Like you're.
there's a
you
couple
know,
of us. There's a couple different movements. We all operate a bit differently. I'm the dude who goes out there and smokes in public, and
That's
like,
what we do here.
That's
Me,
what it
Phone
is.
Homie,
Yeah,
Strogger,
yeah.
like all of us. That's what we've done since the start of I-71.
Right. A
It's just-
stigma pioneer.
Yeah.
Yeah, but at the same time, we need to balance that with doing it right.
Exactly.
Because I mean, there's other people in my country, they'll go smoke a joint outside our parliament.
Right.
And that's cool, but at the same time, that's probably not gonna get the change that we
Not the
want.
best look we
You know
wanna
what I'm
show,
saying?
exactly.
So it's all about knowing how the game works, playing the game, and then actually trying to get some decent
Yeah.
change around there.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So
That's
listen,
how ours. We're here at the White House.
These
show
guys-
them respect, and they show you respect in return.
yeah, absolutely. You guys talking about street theater. The head of Normal, Keith Stroops, had some shit to say about DC 71 about last year. And he was saying basically we don't need street theater, and these guys went and protested smoke joints
I
from the
think
White
it
House.
did a lot
It-
for the city.
It advanced the whole
Like-
cause because then Obama said, "Okay, guys, come in here. You're serious,
Yeah.
right?"
Yep.
The lawyer said, "Don't do it,"
Oh,
but these guys made it happen.
I mean, to be honest, it's not something that I wouldn't do. But it's something that if you're gonna do it, make sure that
Do it respectfully.
whatever happens, be ready for whatever punishment. I mean, in my country, if I were to do that,
Exactly.
I'm already a walking tiger. Like a lot of my community know who I am, what I
Yeah.
do, and what I stand for.
That's how we are
And
here.
a lot of people would love to end that.
I really want to go into that
We've
because
got those here too.
Yeah,
They
exactly.
would definitely cut us off in a heartbeat.
Absolutely.
In a
without
heartbeat.
question. No, you
Yeah.
do not need your medicine. Bang.
yeah, exactly. In fact, take that money, put it in the OxyContin
Yeah,
bin.
yeah.
The fact
Exactly,
that
exactly, yeah.
the fact that you're willing to take on your personal freedom For real, right? You're willing to be the tip of the spear. You know, what did it cost you? You know, if you lost jobs, have you gotten arrested?
Yeah,
Your
okay.
country's a little tougher than I understand. Like,
Yeah,
it looks
yeah.
cool, the postcard
They
looks
go
nice,
hard, yeah,
but they go hard.
So personally, obviously when I first started doing this cannabis stuff, it was a couple years ago. So I released a documentary, and when I did that, like I showed my family before. Now here's what gets real interesting. My brother's a detective in New Zealand, okay? And so my mum's a nurse and my dad's a firefighter. So I come from that. And so before I released this big documentary that took me about 2 years to film, I sat them down and I said, look, here's my documentary. I'm going to release it. I want to show you guys first because when this thing blows up, you guys are going to hear about it, and you know. And at first, there was a bit of tension between me and my family. And I did get disowned for a bit.
You gotta be the outcast for a little while.
Yeah. That's what it sort of was. And especially now think about this because I was that son who like did really well at school, got like a scholarship that paid for like my law degree. Then was that law, you know, first class honors type of stuff, and then now doing cannabis. So obviously it was quite a
Left turn.
boom.
Like, yeah.
So I went through that. I had a lot of, obviously everyone in the legal community, all my friends through there, disowned me. That was like, no more, we're not doing that, hanging out with that guy. And then a lot of, obviously my friends, because they like weren't educated about like cannabis and whatnot, I got associated as being like a drug person. This person promotes drugs. You know, no, I promote cannabis.
Exactly.
So yeah, obviously like, so personally I took a hit. Obviously when I started doing all these cannabis videos, my employability hit zero. There was no way that the dude who was out there smoking bongs and saying that cannabis is cool and like that it's a good thing and you know we should actually change our laws. So obviously I went through a time of not being able to work. I had no money, all those type of things. So yeah, it was, and at the same time, I was way too proud to go on the welfare system. So it's one of those things. I don't want to put myself out there as like the cannabis activist in my country if I'm on the welfare because you know
It doesn't look good.
Doesn't look good at all. So yeah, it and here's another thing. So I used to sell drugs. You know, I was selling cannabis to like all these different types of people. A lot of the people that I sold cannabis to, especially towards the end, they were strictly medical people. Yeah. It was people that I didn't sell to people who were just trying to get high. No. I just met all these people.
Recreational so much myself.
Yeah. But with all these people, like they needed it and they couldn't get it. And our black market in New Zealand is horrible. We'll talk about that soon. Yeah. But because I was public with this cannabis stuff, I couldn't sell drugs anymore. So no income, no job.
Wow.
Family was like, and it's one of those things like me and my brother, because he's a cop now.
Yes.
We can't really hang out and be seen together. And here's a buzzy thing: if you put us together, we look quite similar. Got the same type of tattoos, same type of facial hair, all these type of things. And it's funny, people come up to me sometimes when I'm wearing a hat and when I can't see my colourful hair, whatever colour it is at the moment, and oh hey, you're that cop. Or and sometimes the funniest one is when they go to him, hey, you're that weed guy. Yeah.
That would be fun.
But like nowadays, so that was about 2 years ago. Now, what I've noticed is in those 2 years, our government has slowly made positive steps towards reform. Whenever they ask the public, it's overwhelming, like towards cannabis reform. Right. So that happens, and because we've kind of like seen these things happen, these little steps, society as a whole in New Zealand has changed it. So I'm not so much this negative person anymore. Yeah. I'm this like, oh shit, he's kind of right. The science now out there, we've seen all these places make reform and nothing bad has happened. So now it's kind of, I'm looked at like, okay, this guy's onto it. And because I believe me and my team are doing it right, they like, look at us, sweet. Let's follow these dudes and hopefully get something changed. Wow. Yeah, but it's been a lot of sacrifices on this journey. But I mean, this whole time I've known that it's been worth it, and because I 100% believe in what we're doing.
Exactly, dude. That's how we are here. We're
every single
devoted to it. There's no other cause we would rather be in.
Absolutely.
You know, like, it saved almost all of us in this community. Yeah. So literally, not one of us here would probably have our life if not for cannabis.
Yeah, absolutely.
That's so true, right? Corey shares with me that I know that he's a survivor of pain and opioid addiction, right? And cannabis made that difference for him. Yep. For me, I owe my life many times over to cannabis, right? That's why I had to become a healer. It saved my life, right? I know that people who have a vision in this community, there's something driving them, and it's not just be good for others. It's because it's good for ourselves. And if I could, you've been so generous with us so far, Simba, for real. share with us your vision. Like, what gets you out of the morning to talk to your parents, to talk to your brother, the cop, right? It can't be about the money, right? It's something in your spirit that, like, it's almost like a poem. It may not be safe all the time to put it out there and wear that on your sleeve, but if you could share with us, I really want to know, because that's someone else's power out there.
I think the main thing is I look around what's happening currently in New Zealand, and I mean right now, you're paying $20 for half a gram of really, really wet, not good cannabis. And I mean, like, the whole situation is you rock up to, like, some place and, like, don't get me wrong, if you're growing your own stuff, or you have one of those dudes who's been growing for 20 years, you can get good stuff. Don't get me wrong, like, I grow really good cannabis myself.
But you got to be in the know.
Yeah, but if you're not in the current black market, you walk up to a place, you knock on the door, it's one of those, you put your money in.
The Philly dope spots.
Yeah, and you have no idea what you're smoking, who grow it, like all these type of things. So
Could be anything.
It's really impossible for all these people that need a certain type of cannabis to treat whatever they need to be treating.
Yeah.
So actually,
especially when you need to isolate those certain symptoms with a certain strain.
Exactly.
I mean, so
there's
precise.
no real, like, market for edibles, which is a completely, like, new ball game when it comes to medical. Tinctures and all these type of wonderful things that exist around the world and have actually shown positive results. We can't get
Especially
them.
for people who don't smoke.
So I guess if I'm bringing it back to your question about what gets me up in the morning, I'm trying to get change to happen. I know that, as I said, whenever we do polls, it's something crazy like 60% of people say that we should, like, go rec, and then 70.
I think we had like 70 here, something like that.
And say it should go, like, medical and whatnot.
Yep.
So it's one of those things that, like, I believe I represent a large amount of people, and we're all here wanting the same thing. So, yeah.
You're in it for the community.
Yeah.
Right? You source your passion for what you do.
Yeah.
Right. I get that.
Yeah.
Right. Me, I'm too selfish for that.
And another thing is, not everyone can actually go out and, like, promote cannabis, or say that, or stand up for it, because they've got a job that they need to go and work hard, and it's usually drug tests and all those type of things. So not everyone is in my position to actually try and make this change, and because I'm finally in a place where I can actually resource myself to try do it, why not?
Exactly.
Do you feel yourself that you're going to continue? Do you can continue with this in New Zealand?
So this is in regards to cannabis, this is pretty much what I see myself doing for the rest of my life. It's something I 100% believe in. It's one of those things that now science and studies and all that has my back. Yeah. So it's just like, I don't see there ever being enough information about anything out there, especially cannabis. And I mean, there's so much to be learnt. And I mean, we're just at the start of that. You know what I'm saying?
Wow. Are you going to run for office? Are you running for office over in New Zealand?
There's always, honestly, there's always...
Are we talking to the future Prime Minister?
There's always talk. People always saying that. And I would honestly love to dabble politics one day. There is a party. There's a party in New Zealand that I have backed always. They stand for most things that I stand for. So if the timing is right and the situation is perfect, I would love to stand one day.
Definitely.
And I know it'd be good.
All right, listen, I'm a chiropractor, so I want to emigrate when you get a chance. We
let's
love
do it.
chiropractors in New Zealand.
Absolutely.
Listen, and from this point forward, I want to ask you to lead and ask your questions. You sent over some brilliant questions about what DC is to us here, and I asked McLeese, right? If there's anybody, is it a tip of the spear character? This gentleman's been in from the start.
Real Deal Farms was my start Instagram. McLeaf's Mark is my show.
Yeah.
I do a cannabis wrestling show here.
Right?
Yeah, because I go.
That's cool.
I go to all the pro wrestling events that are like local within a couple states.
Yeah.
And I literally know a lot of the pro wrestlers. Yeah. So it's like something I've been passionate about for a long time. Because after my legs got screwed up, like I got into hardcore, into promoting, being with those guys. Like, I wish I could still be in the ring. I really do. I probably could, but just as a manager, I'm gonna keep it at Paul Heyman status.
Yeah.
I mean, yeah, exactly. I mean, literally tomorrow night there's an event, so it's like there's something all the time with the wrestling. It's awesome.
Yeah, that's awesome.
It's awesome. Yeah, and back to the plant. One of the brilliant things is that you were asking as a lawyer, like, where are we in the actual scheduling? I'm sorry, it was a horrible segue. So when I get to be a real broadcaster, I'll make a better one. Right? But the idea is like, okay, so what we have in D.C. is a kind of decrim with not a legal retail.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
Right? So it's a
no remuneration.
Yeah.
Right. It's a gifting economy.
Yes.
Right? So it's a very much in this gray area, and it's hard to talk about it because there's no one way to do it. right?
You literally have to be in the know, like, especially now,
Yeah.
because we used to have little pop-ups and what you call it, and it kind of was tolerated,
Yeah, yeah.
but now they're not tolerating
Yeah.
anymore. They're kind of like going in.
Because
on
I was
these
going to go to a
places.
couple pop-ups during my time here, and they all got cancelled.
Yeah,
Oh,
they've
interesting.
changed.
Well, which ones would you sign up for? You can talk about that. You're not, you don't have a vested.
I
Who'd you
actually
get?
don't remember them off the top of my head.
Right, right.
But yeah, they got shut down for whatever. I'm not too sure what the reason was,
yeah.
but
No, I follow them. I see who's keeping them and who's not, right? Just to see who's got a spot and who's worried about it. Yeah. So that did just happen over the last 2 months. We would say almost came on with the change of the years.
It was because of the influx of how many started.
Right.
Like literally, there was like 5 every day, at least.
Oh god, yeah.
boom.
I
Yeah,
mean,
no,
and
like
this-
someone
this-
counted
a city-
78 during the Christmas holiday.
Yeah, for a city this small per capita, and this isn't even a state. So I mean, we don't have the same laws here as like out in Maryland or out in Virginia. Everything's changed here simply because this is the District of Columbia. Federally, they can do whatever they'd like here. Truthfully,
Right.
I think they would just like to keep it all medical where it stays that way. That way they can regulate. But I mean, recreational has to come in eventually. You know.
Well, we have a really unique situation, right? And so, like, again, we have at the ward council this week votes to see if you can actually make it retail without involving Congress's oversight. Because there is sort of a slush fund locally, right? And they figure it's about $1 million in this discretionary fund that they can use to do the retail regime. Now, Obama had mentioned this to Bowser in 16 and in 15 in the appendix to the budget. But this was sort of under the radar. The blame seems to go, people want to blame Andy Harris from the first Congress. He's a congressman from Maryland. Bottom line is that it's very much of a gray area, speakeasy, and people are doing what they want to do. And this is where I'm telling you, this is like you said, what are we losing? What are the pitfalls of legalization? Right now, you see the best of both worlds. You see that underground economy of people who, they grow.
Entrepreneurs, man.
Entrepreneurs. The cool part about the black market is the entrepreneurship. That's the part I really like. And now that's sort of like in the decrim market, that's sort of like up, and that's the part I'm afraid of losing. The part that I love about the DC scene is
You lose all the creativeness. Like you see how people are actually coming into their own a little bit.
yeah.
Not so scared. Not so.
Yeah. I'm
know
thinking of
what I mean?
Canadope.
Yeah.
What a great product, right? Everybody loves to roll blunts. So there's a local company, Canadope. They basically buy backwood smokes, re-roll them, put 2 ounces of good weed and tobacco, and then they sell them as a pre-roll. That's a DC thing. It's sort of, everybody loves them. Their stickers are everywhere, Craftwoods. Now, again, it's one of those things that it wouldn't have been a retail brand, but
that's enabled.
Yeah, they make it so hard for a small business, cannabis-wise, to get in anyway.
Yeah.
yes.
Because of their wanting to regulate the whole system. That's going to make it hard for any of us who want to really get in
Right.
that way. I mean, big money will get you in, obviously. That gets you in.
Well, that's what I've seen. It is a pay-to-play thing.
It is a
Exactly.
bit
It's exactly what it
and
is.
it's the cost of becoming part of that legal market that is actually stopping a lot of
We
people
call
from
that in
entering.
capitalism the barrier to entry.
Absolutely.
Yep.
Right, the barrier
And
to
it
entry
exists
is-
in this market. Yeah.
Yeah, brilliantly said. That barrier to entry is the tax and regulation scheme, and here in DC we don't have it yet.
Yet. Exactly.
Right.
They're working on it. It's,
Exactly.
It's
Of
in
course they
the
are.
works.
Yeah.
Like, yeah.
But that's where I'm saying last year, 2017, 2016, they were mind blowing. You'd go in events. I'm serious. This summer I went to an event, 1,400 people. Right,
Dude, we had over 15.
1,500 people
It was over
in a
15
pop-up
that
event.
night, yeah.
Yeah, that's a lot of people.
There's a lot of effing
It was
people.
the,
And
it was the
cops are
most
out-
we ever had in any event ever.
And the cops are outside actually doing security. Right, they're actually
Yeah,
making sure
it's-
that the cops are not busting it. The cops are making sure that the people in the parking lot are not throwing bottles.
Now we have the NCF coming up here April 21st.
Now that's interesting.
The National Cannabis Festival.
Yeah.
And now that's at an event
RFK
Stadium at the like the fairgrounds kind of thing.
Yeah.
It's pretty awesome. Like, and that's a permanent event, so it's not like police are going to be there to protect people, not to.
But that's
screw
a
with
third year
people.
running.
Yes.
Third year running. And what's interesting about RFK Stadium is partially on federal land. The feds do have jurisdiction.
Oh yes.
Right. So if Jeff Sessions decides, you know what, I can use some of this money that you just let me use, and I'm going to bust somebody, they do have jurisdiction over federal land in D.C. And that's the only one I'm like, really going to do that one?
But I mean, look at all the other cannabis festivals that go on around the world. Chalice Festival.
Yeah.
Anything like
Right.
that. San Bernardino Cup. Anything. Any cup that's ever been
True.
in existence.
True, but those are states where they're you'd actually have to have the feds call the state cops and say we have to do this together. And in fact, as I understand it, you have to. The locals have to ask the feds to come in. Right here,
It has to be complaints, problems.
right. So here, I don't think so. But
Compliance is the biggest thing. They just want compliance.
that is it.
As long as we're not screwing with them, they're not so much going to screw with us. That's
A
what I hope.
speakeasy culture is what we have in D.C.
Yeah.
So it's like that. So, right, I don't think you can really even make too much of it. It's really in its embryonic stage. And I would say the other weird thing is the thing about I think we should talk about in D.C. is that D.C. the issue passed here is social justice, and that's the thing I think is very unique. Eidinger, as I understand the story, for Adam Eidinger, who owned Capital Hemp, as a store, it represents Dr. Bronner's soap. Right now, as part of their program, they were selling hemp oil soap in some hemp fiber bags.
Yeah.
And here comes the D.C. police in 2012 and busts them, puts them in jail, and they can't believe that they're in jail, for hemp soap. Yeah, you got it. So then they start talking to the other inmates, right? And they say, how many here? As they understood, half of the people in jail that evening had some cannabis possession charge leveled against them. So they took it on. Dr. Bronner's took it on as a corporate mission. They dedicated about $500,000, and they raised $500,000.
And they created I-71.
Yeah, $1 million got it done. That's amazing to me.
Yeah.
Right? Literally, as I understand it.
He's put in more work for this cause than almost anybody in the city. I mean, I give mad respect to Adam just for the fact that he has helped us so much with this.
God bless him, right? But he got pinched, right? In other words, he got thrown in jail, and you could see that was the impetus as he tells the story. Now, the point of it is, though, at the end of it, we're left with a gifting economy. We really don't know where the laws are, and that's it.
Exactly.
We're left in this
People
gray
are just
area.
like running with their tails between their legs basically now. Not sure quite which way to go. Yeah. But those of us who have had our vision from the beginning, we're not failing. We're not stopping.
Yeah, no, definitely.
Me, Phone Homie, DC Scrogger.
Yeah.
None of us are going to stop our activism. Like it is our medicine.
Well, it's probably never
going to
end. It's probably never going to end as soon as we've got groups of people that don't like what we do, and there's so many of them.
Exactly, dude. They're always going to have a hater.
Right.
You got to have haters to be doing something right.
Yeah, and DC passed it 70-30 because they came across, I really believe they explained it as a social justice from the point of view you're using this as an American apartheid. And the thing I guess I want to resolve right here in this bit is, right, well, the thing I love about weed, and it's more about the fact that it's medicine, it reveals the shit that's been going on all along. It's an apartheid system. We need something to bang them up, bang their heads up. Oh, make it into the weed.
Yeah, definitely.
Right? Oh, I need to tax and regulate the cops now. They want to be paid off. Right? Oh, okay. Make sure you keep on taxing the weed at black market rates so that it's $400, $500 an ounce. Keep on paying for my pensions. It shows the corruption of the system. So, cannabis community, remember this. As your money gets liberated, you don't have to spend it on the black market. Learn how to grow it. Keep that money in the bank and buy your own self some goddamn new shoes. New shoes or anything else you like. Right? No more, none of this black market shit. And don't give the money to the man. No. Fuck the tax and regulation scheme. Grow it. Like that. So, Jay,
especially in this city, because in this city you can grow up to 6 plants in your own home.
What's your excuse?
I mean,
and
so
I mean,
there is
like,
literally
growing
no
plants
excuse.
is like quite an experience too.
It's
like,
the greatest thing to ever
so
do.
Good. It's almost as good as smoking cannabis.
Half my life I've
How do you explain
considered
that?
myself a moonshiner, and now I don't have to consider myself a moonshiner anymore.
It's a beautiful thing. I know. Whenever I get around plants, what does it do? It sucks you in. I don't know.
It's great.
The guy who does the water, the emoji guy, the guy who does the Emoto water experiments, he says that hemp, cannabis, is so high energy, it sucks fucking radiation. It will change water.
Yeah.
Actually, blesses the water. Right on. All right,
Exactly.
y'all. Bring us to the IG, Mr.
Tree
J.
of life.
Tree of life. Right on. Hey. Red 55. Is Jay there?
That was cool. That was cool.
That was cool.